Welcome to Nerd Heaven. I'm Adam David Collins, the author of Jewel of the Stars, and I am a nerd. So this is just going to be a little mini update in between the main episodes, because I have some nerd news to react to. Let's start with news of the Snyder Cut. Now, it was a couple of weeks ago now when we got the final trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I watched it, and I thought, okay, yep, there's another trailer. I didn't really have a lot to say, and I think in a lot of ways my response was kind of tempered by the fact that I really wasn't convinced that I was going to get to see this thing. I mean, certainly not with everyone else, maybe like 6 months later or something. Now, Zack Snyder had said, last year sometime, that he was going to make sure that there would be international distribution deals in place. But it was getting so close to release date, and still, I hadn't heard anything. There had been an announcement about international distribution. They said a few things about Asia and Europe and some disappointing news for South America, but nothing about Australia, or New Zealand for that matter. So, once again, it seems like, Australia just gets forgotten. We don't matter. We never do. But I decided to do a little Google search just to see if there'd been any news released that I hadn't noticed yet. And lo and behold, I found an article on flicks.com.au. It had come out about 4 days earlier, and it had confirmation there will be an Australian release. So it is going to be on a little-known streaming service called Binge, which is associated with Foxtel. So guess who's going to be getting a month of Binge in March? So this is really, really exciting news. And the best part is that it is going to be released on the same day as the global release on HBO Max. So I will get to see it with everyone else. And I get to see it legally and ethically, and that's great. That is awesome. I'm very happy. And now that I know that I'm actually going to get to see it, my enthusiasm for this project it's all come back. I went back and I rewatched the trailer, and it was very exciting. The big thing that really stood out to me in this latest trailer was Steppenwolf. I am really liking the new design. And I suppose by new, I really mean old, because this is how Zack kind of envisaged the character originally before it all got changed by Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon. So I really very much prefer Zack's version of the character design. The one we got in theatrical cut, it's this guy wearing a silly helmet, basically. Zack's version looks so much more alien. He's got these horns coming out of his head, and yeah, I know in the comics he's been seen wearing the silly helmet, but this looks really good. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this movie. This 4-hour movie. To be honest, I would have been quite happy with 1-hour episodes released weekly. That would have given him a bit of time to absorb the whole thing. But then who am I kidding? You get to the end of episode 1, I'm going to be clamoring for episode 2. So, yeah, it is going to be released as a 4-hour movie. So, yes, Justice League, Zack Snyder Cut, can't wait. It's going to be very awesome, and I will, of course, be sharing all my thoughts here on Nerd Heaven. I'll probably do just a review immediately, and then when I have time, I'll really dig deep and do a proper analysis like I do with other stuff. So what else is going on in the nerd world? Well, we got our first look at the characters from the upcoming Star Trek Prodigy, which is the animated kids series they have in the works. So those of you on YouTube, this is the image. Those of you listening anywhere else where you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can very easily find this image. It's on StarTrek.com. It's on TrekMovie.com. So let's talk about these characters. So it's very stylized. I'm getting very kind of cutesy, comedic kind of vibes from the visual look here. I guess that's what the kids are into these days. Thinking back when I was a kid, even back then, I still kind of preferred a bit of a darker, more serious tone to my cartoons. But, I'm almost 43 years old. I am not the target audience for this show. And I have to temper every one of my reactions through that filter. So, going from the left and looking at the characters, we've got a robot. And, yeah, it's a very Pixar-looking robot. It's very stylized. It's looks like it's kind of been put together with kind of junk. No idea what this guy's story is. But obviously we're going to get an intelligent robot. Now, one big thing, and this is a reaction that a lot of people have had, is there's nothing here that looks Star Trek. None of these are familiar races that we've seen before. And that makes sense given the premise we've been told that it's about some alien kids who find a derelict Starfleet ship and they slowly learn about Starfleet and Starfleet's principles. So, okay, I'm with that. That's a good premise. And I think as the story goes on, it'll start to feel more Star Trek. We've just seen the characters. We haven't seen the ship. We know Janeway is going to be in the show. We haven't seen what her animated version is going to look like yet. But I think once they're on the ship, we might see some other... certainly see some familiar Federation technology. We'll see Janeway. We might see some other familiar races as the show goes on. So I think it may start to feel more Star Trek once we get to see those things. But looking at these characters, they're very unfamiliar. Now, the second guy along, he's a very kind of short, kind of pudgy guy. Now, I've heard some people say that he looks a little bit like a Tellarite. Others say he looks a little bit like a Talaxian. I am going to say I very much hope he is neither, because if he is either of those, then that's a pretty drastic departure from what I think those two species should look like. And the fact that you can compare this guy to both of those species, shows that it really doesn't look like either. But, yeah, he's a bit of a fun-loving looking guy. He is clearly an engineer, given all the tools he's wearing on his belt. Got a big grin, got a tusk on one side of his mouth. So, yeah, that's that guy. Then we've got a very tall, slender-looking female character, very commanding-looking person. I wouldn't be surprised if she's kind of the lead. She takes command amongst these characters. She just seems to have that commanding presence to her. She's got very light blue skin. And then standing next to her is another very humanoid-looking character. This one a male. He has purple skin. Very sticky-uppy, kind of spiky hair. Kind of an anime-ish look, maybe. I don't know. He's a big smirk on his face, so he looks like the smart aleck of the group. Then we've got this blobby-looking thing with a big smile on its face. Now, this obviously brings to mind the character in The Orville, and I'm going to lose some geek cred for not knowing that character's name off the top of my head. It hasn't been very convenient to watch The Orville in Australia until very recently. It was on SBS, it was on their website, but you couldn't watch it on TV because there was no app, certainly no app for any device that I've got, not even on the Chromecast. But recently, Disney Plus have added this service called Star, which I think is essentially Hulu for other countries. Anyway, on that service, they have The Orville. So I can finally watch The Orville on my TV instead of my computer, which means I'm probably going to go through and finish the thing. Anyway, very friendly-looking little blobby thing. Could it be a shape-shifting kind of creature? Maybe even a founder? If it was a founder, it should probably be orange rather than blue. But I tend to think this is just some kind of a very non-humanoid slug kind of creature that we've never seen before. And then the final character is a really big bulky guy. Looks like a rock monster. Lots of scaly, kind of hard rock. Kind of like The Thing from Fantastic Four, but with a big kind of cutesy looking face. He's wearing overalls, so could he be kind of an engineer too, or some kind of a manual labourer? I don't know. But, again, he looks like a friendly fellow. So those are our characters. Yeah, I'm keen to learn more. As I said, I'm not the target audience for this show. It's not going to be my kind of Star Trek, but I'm going to check it out. It is Star Trek. I'll watch the whole thing because it's Star Trek, and that's what I do. And the last bit of news I wanted to talk about is the announcement of the next MCU Spider-Man movie, which is called Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but it's only now that I've actually realised that, hey, all of these three movies have the word home in their name. We had Homecoming, then we had Far From Home, and now we've got No Way Home. Maybe I'm slow. Anyway, there's not much more to say about it other than we have a title. We have heard rumours that there's going to be a lot of multiverse stuff going on in this movie, that we might see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and, what's his name? I really like his portrayal of Spider-Man. What was his name? Andrew Garfield. Yeah, we may see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reprising their versions of Spider-Man in a multiverse kind of thing. So my guess is that Peter Parker's going to get lost in the multiverse and going to try and find his way back to his universe. Just based on the name No Way Home. So that's the nerd news. Lots of interesting things going on in the world today, but really, really looking forward to the Snyder Cut. Can't wait for that. So I will be back next week with my next regular episode, where we'll be looking at the next episode of Stargate Universe. I think it's going to be water. So, yeah, thanks for your attention. Spread the word about Nerd Heaven. I'll catch you later.